Hi everyone, welcome to the All About Animals show. My name is Nikita Dhawan, and today I'm really looking forward to be talking to Todd Montgomery. He is the senior manager and former outreach and education manager at the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee. The Elephant Sanctuary provides elephants retired from performance and exhibition a safe refuge and opportunity to interact with other elephants. It's North America's largest natural habitat sanctuary for captive elephants, over 3,000 acres in size. Thank you so much for joining today, Mr. Montgomery. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So can you just start us by telling us about your background and how you became interested in animal welfare?
Sure. My background is I tell everyone that I work with or in the elephant business now, but my background is in education. So I've always loved animals and enjoyed being around animals, but I found out early in my career that I had a very special passion for teaching people about animals and different ways that humans and animals could coexist in a more helpful or mutually beneficial ways to both, I suppose. So I didn't really get fully immersed in elephant welfare and thinking more about elephant well-being until I started learning more about the elephant sanctuary. And then, of course, I've learned more than I ever could have expected in my decade now working here at the Elephant Sanctuary and working for the elephants, I like to say.
Yes, and you've done work as the education manager as well at the Elephant Sanctuary, and it has some really good educational programs for younger children in general, which I think is really important. So just regarding the Tennessee Elephant Sanctuary, can you tell us about it, its mission, what kind of work do you guys do?
I'd be happy to. And you covered a lot in the introduction there. Thank you for that. But and some of this may be repetitive, but so bear with me. But the Elephant Sanctuary is one of two accredited elephant sanctuaries in North America. We're located in South Central Tennessee, about an hour and a half southwest of Nashville. And the sanctuary itself has two purposes. We have a dual mission, I think is a good way to think of it. The first half of our mission is to care for elephants, as you might have guessed. We do that in a number of ways. We have a 3,060 acre sanctuary preserve here in Lewis County, Tennessee, that is a home to 9 elephants that are retired from performance and exhibition. And going back to our start in 1995, since that time, we've cared for 28 elephants physically here at the sanctuary in total. So, I tell everybody that our population changes from time to time. We have new elephants arrive, obviously, and sometimes elephants pass away, sadly. So the numbers sort of go up and down. But we are thrilled to be able to do what we do and to be able to have served as many elephants as we have in our past 27 years. The other half of our mission is to educate, to teach the public about what elephants are, about how incredibly valuable they are to the wild world, about their role as keystone species in their native habitats in Asia and in Africa, and of course about the value of conserving this species and conserving the wild places where they live as well as their wild neighbors. We also educate about the needs of elephants in captivity. Our goal, or what we'd like to see, is a scenario where all elephants living in captivity have the resources and the ability to live a full and content life. So, in a nutshell, our job, our mission, is to help elephants wherever they may be and whatever condition they might be in.
Yeah, I think I really liked what you mentioned about elephants being a keystone species. I think it really provides, background into why in the first place should we be having a harmonious relationship with nature, because essentially preserving nature is just going to contribute to our own sustainability, since they provide such essential ecosystem services through the behaviors of elephants and other animals. So that's definitely very important. And also, often many animal facilities or rescue centers, they call themselves animal sanctuaries. But,
Sure.
in technical terms, these facilities do have different purposes and characteristics. And it's important, especially for the general public, to be able to identify these variations. So what would you say is the specific criteria for a facility to be distinguished as a sanctuary?
Well, I guess the first thing that I would advise of anyone is to never take a name of anything at face value. Like when you use the word like sanctuary or preserve or rescue or zoo for that matter, right? That covers a lot of ground. Like, that encompasses a very wide breadth of facilities that may do very different things, but still call themselves the same name. Again, I mentioned this before, but a good place to start is to look and see that those facilities are either accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, or our elephant sanctuary, the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee, is also certified with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And that's another great sort of tag that you can look for to see if that facility has met industry agreed upon standards for animal well-being. Beyond that, another criteria that we advise everybody to look for is look to see if the animals in that facility, wherever it is, look to see if those animals are being asked to do something beyond what a reasonable person would think of as wild behavior for that animal, right? Like if you're going someplace that calls itself a sanctuary or a preserve, but they're caring for, or the elephants in their care are still giving rides or doing performances or having lots of interaction with humans. Obviously, that's not something that wild elephants do. Those would all be indicators that that facility may not have the welfare of those animals as one of its highest priorities. So, and there are lots of places out there that are doing the best that they can with the resources that they have to provide better homes for elephants that may have previously come from deplorable conditions. But I really think the most important thing, Nikita, is for people to always ask, always take a few minutes to look online, to find those reviews, to ask yourself, are these animals being cared for in a way that I'm okay with? Never, ever just assume that everything is quote unquote right just because that's what the facility's name is.
Yeah, I've seen like a few reserves where visitors, they're allowed to like paint or bathe the elephants.
Mm-hmm.
And they just like label themselves as a sanctuary, so people automatically assume, okay, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sanctuary. But yeah, what you said is very important for identifying what criteria are they actually fulfilling for elephants. And just regarding the Tennessee Elephant Sanctuary, how many elephants are in your care?
We have 9 elephants that we care for right now. We have 5 Asian elephants and 4 African elephants, and they range in age from 37 to age 60. We have live streaming cameras where the public can view the elephants along with us. Again, you're able to see and observe these elephants without physically being with them or in their presence. And so we think that's sort of the best mode for observing the elephants that live here with us. And Billy is our 60-year-old elephant. I just saw her on the live cams just before we signed on here. So she's enjoying a pretty hot morning here in Tennessee that we're having. But it's perfect for Billy and the other elephants. And so they seem happy.
That's cool. I noticed that the sanctuary only has female elephants. Why is that the case? Are there any special challenges associated with keeping male elephants?
So male elephants or bulls, I guess to use the more scientific term, are different than females, right? Go figure. Bull elephants are much larger. They have very different temperaments, very different behavior patterns, very different needs. In the wild, and with both Asian and African elephants. Bull elephants, when they reach maturity, when they get to be teenagers thereabout, they leave their herds, the herds that are led by an older, more established female, the matriarch. The bull elephants sort of have to strike out on their own. Sometimes a group of young male elephants will come together and form what's called a bachelor pod. Sometimes they'll be more solitary. But really, for the most part, in the wild, adult males and adult females, although they certainly do spend time together, they don't really live together in the same herd for the most part. Females, on the other hand, they'll remain in their matriarchal herds for their entire lives. So all that is to say, if you have a scenario where an adult male and adult female are placed together, it may not go very well. Those two elephants may not be able to socialize. It could lead to bigger issues. Not always, but it could. The elephant sanctuary was actually created as a home for Asian female elephants specifically initially, and that's what we did for several years. And then in the early 2000s, we had the ability. We were asked if we would be able to provide retirement for two African savanna elephant females for the first time, and we of course said yes, and we were able to modify our facility to make that a possibility. We did take in one male elephant many years ago. His name is Ned. He was actually confiscated by authorities from his former owner here in the United States, and his health was so poor, honestly, that a lot of the normal concerns with the bull elephant just didn't apply. He was only with us for a few months before he passed away. It was a very sad case. I should also say that the elephant sanctuary now, we do have the capacity, and we're certainly willing to take in bull elephants. So we don't have any bull elephants with us at the moment. That will be changing sometime in the not so distant future. Our associates, our colleagues at Zoo Knoxville in Eastern Tennessee have announced that they're going to be transferring their 3 elephants, 2 females and 1 bull, to the sanctuary. We don't have an exact timeline for that yet, but we are busy making way for those new arrivals. And so at some point, maybe in the not so distant future, we will be welcoming a bull elephant to our facility. And we are all extremely excited to see how that will go.
That's really exciting. Is the bull elephant Tonka?
Yes, he is Tonka.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I think it's also interesting that the social structure for elephants is matriarchal, and I think preserving that natural social structure is so significant for the elephant's welfare, and probably one of the missing elements in zoos and circus environments. They usually just switch and mix and match around elephants like props without actually considering their natural behavior. So the fact that, sanctuaries like yours actually put in detail and thought into it is really significant. So also just wondering, which resident elephant do you share a special bond with personally, and why?
I don't know that I would call it a bond. I don't know that would be a fair description, but I do feel a special affinity for Sissy, one of the Asian elephants here. And the reason for that is Sissy retired to the sanctuary in the year 2000. She'd been a zoo elephant, and she'd lived at a few different zoos in Texas. She'd always had a hard time socializing with other elephants. And finally, at her final zoo home, it was a really awful story. She wasn't treated very well. And the supporters of this particular facility really got angry about Sissy's treatment. And long story short, they kind of made way for Sissy to come and live with us. So for Sissy to get from Texas to Tennessee, the caravan had to drive through the state of Arkansas. And they actually, Sissy and her caravan spent the night at a hotel in a little town in eastern Arkansas, and that was where they overnighted before resuming the journey. And that little town is actually the town where I grew up. And I didn't know any of this until after I'd already worked at the sanctuary, and I was researching some of the life histories of the elephants. And so it was quite a surprise when I found out that Sissy the elephant had spent the night the little town where I grew up. So I always, Sissy's a fascinating elephant with a fascinating story, but that just seemed like a very, very big coincidence. And I've always just sort of felt Sissy holds a special place in my heart, and she does with a lot of other people as well. Sissy has a lot of fans all over the world, and especially in Texas, where she spent so many years. There's a big Sissy fan club there.
No, yeah, and she's definitely been through a lot. I mean, I read that she nearly drowned in the Texas floods and has a fear of water. Can you tell our listeners a bit about that part of the story?
Sure, and I also want to say that the reason that we know a fair amount about Sissy's background is because she has so many friends and supporters in Texas and again all over the world. A very quick version: Sissy was brought to the United States. We don't exactly know where Sissy was born. We know that it was in the wild somewhere in southern or southeastern Asia. We think probably maybe Thailand, but I don't know. I can't state that as fact. It's probably just speculation. What we do know is that the elephant that we now know as Sissy first popped up on the historical record here in the U.S. as part of a petting zoo collection at the Six Flags amusement park outside of Dallas, Texas. And so Sissy very quickly outgrew the confines and the circumstance of the petting zoo, and she was sent to live at a zoo in Gainesville, Texas. And it's called the Frank Buck Zoo. And Sissy lived there for many, many years. And in 1981, I think it was 1981, there was a flood. The zoo was built in a valley. There was a little river that sort of ran through the zoo, actually. And so with all the rain, the water rose, and the zoo sustained a lot of damage. And Sissy the elephant actually sort of disappeared. Her enclosure was underwater. As you can imagine, there was a lot of chaos. A lot of the zoo employees were working to protect everybody, to make sure that everyone was accounted for, both the humans and animals, and you name it. And Sissy was sort of presumed lost. No one knew where she was. And then after about 36 hours, I guess about a day and a half, staff realized that Sissy had not, she hadn't washed away in the rising floodwaters. She'd actually been able to sort of affix herself. Some reports say that it was, she was able to sort of hang on to a tree. I've read other accounts that said she was able to sort of wedge her body in between a tree and another outbuilding in her enclosure, but she was able to hold on. She was able to keep herself in place even as the water continued to rise, and the water was actually up just over her head for several hours. She was able to take a breath by lifting her trunk up above the water line. Eventually, the water did come back down. Her staff were able to get to Sissy and were able to rescue her, as the case may be, and to get her to let go of where she was and to travel to higher ground where she could rest and could be assessed by the veterinarians. But I think it's safe to say that was probably a jarring and terrifying experience for Sissy. And then after that, her keeper's there. And then years later, after she moved to another zoo and then another zoo, and then finally here, it was noted that she didn't seem to have the same affection for water that you would expect of Asian elephants. Most Asian elephants love to be in the water. They're very good swimmers. They love to wade and splash and play. And Sissy just wasn't interested. And so it took years before we saw her actually get into our ponds here and swim and socialize with some of the other elephants in the water. And then here just very recently, Sissy, with the other elephants, especially when it's hot, they really enjoy being sprayed with the water hose. It's sort of a little, it's a regular reward that we'll do for the elephants sometimes. We'll give them fire hose baths or garden hose baths, and the elephants really, really enjoy it. Sissy had never really expressed interest in that until very recently. I'd like to think that she witnessed all these other elephants doing something that they enjoyed and finally thought, after all this time, like, okay, maybe it's time to try this now. And she did it, and I can't say for certain that she enjoyed it. I can't read her mind, but it seemed like it was an experience that she's shown interest again since then, since that first time. So I'd like to think that Sissy maybe has gotten over or is getting over whatever fear of water may have been instilled in her many, many years ago when she had that awful experience with the rising waters.
No, yeah, that's it's a miracle that she survived, and it's nice to see that she's doing better in the sanctuary. I also read that after a few weeks in the habitat, she lay down by herself for the first time in years, which I understand elephants do when they're more at ease and comfortable. So that's really nice to see. And
I was going to say, if you can imagine, a lot of people, there's I think sort of misconception that elephants don't lie down, that they always sleep standing up, and they can sleep standing up, and they do. But elephants, do lie down, and it's actually, it's especially for elephants as they get older, it's healthy for them to lie down and to be able to just rest and to take that immense weight off of their legs and their joints and their digits. And so, however, as incredible and majestic as elephants are, when it comes to lying down, getting their big mass to the ground and then back up, that takes a lot of effort on the part of the elephant. And the process of lying down would be really one of the few times that elephants would be vulnerable to a predator or something else negative happening, because they wouldn't be able to, spring to their feet very quickly. So for an elephant to lie down, we've always taken as indicative that they feel safe, they feel secure, they know that nothing bad is going to happen, in which they'll need to respond or defend themselves while they're lying down. So yes, with Sissy, when we saw her lie down for the first time, that was a big step for Sissy and frankly for the sanctuary as well, because we took that as a sign that she was growing in her comfort level here and hopefully feeling safe and feeling at home.
No, yeah, that's great that, she's doing better in a more safe environment. And in addition to providing, a safe environment for zoo elephants like Sissy, the sanctuary also receives elephants from circuses like Nosy. So can you tell us about the specific conditions circus elephants they endure and how do they recover?
Yeah, and I do want to take one step back, and something that I think I brought up earlier, and I should clarify. So the elephant sanctuary is certified by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and we do work closely with a number of zoos. The Knoxville Zoo, I gave that example earlier. We are very proud and thankful that we're in a position where we're able to learn from many of our colleagues that are in the zoo industry, and that also we're able to share our experience caring for the elephants here at the sanctuary with other entities, other zoos that may be dealing with similar circumstances. And I would say that the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and its member organizations and related facilities really over the course of the past several years have really they've made a very concerted effort to review, and I'll just speak about the elephant programs, but to heighten and to codify their standards of care, to be able to provide more opportunities for more natural socialization. That's the word I was looking for. To give the elephants opportunities to have more natural enrichment, really trying to bring more of those wild aspects into a non-wild situation. And we do much of the same stuff here at the sanctuary. So to your question, when we talk about elephant acquisitions, every case is its own set of circumstances, and no two elephant acquisitions or transfers to the sanctuary are exactly the same. Best case scenario, what makes everybody happy is when we are able to proactively plan ahead with another entity, another elephant owning organization. I'll use another AZA zoo or the Zoo Knoxville as an example. When we're able to work with those organizations to say, this is, we all want what is best for these elephants. This is what we can do to make that happen. Those are typically the those are the relationships that we really enjoy engaging in, because you have a group of people that are all working together for the same goal of providing the best life possible for these elephants that everyone cares for and certainly loves. There are other scenarios, to get back to your question, where that's not the case, where authorities get involved. Nosey's a great example. Nosey was a circus elephant for many years. Like with many other circus elephants, her life was a far cry than what the life of a wild elephant would be. In the wild, these elephants, they live in groups. They're traveling. They are looking for food, looking for water, socializing with other animals, with other elephants, I should say, having these very rich, dynamic experiences day to day that engage their bodies and their minds in a way that nature would intend. Nosy, on the other hand, her life for 29 years was being pulled in a horse trailer from town to town, being made to give rides for several hours a day, on parking lots and in these open fields as part of a carnival, as part of a traveling fair or exhibit. So Nosey's life for a long time was very nearly the opposite of what that of a wild elephant would have. Thankfully, a few years ago in 2017, Nosey's circus was performing not that far away in Alabama. People who witnessed Nosey there were concerned about her well-being. They called the authorities. The authorities made the decision to actually confiscate Nosey and bring her to the sanctuary to live with us. And then after a little bit of legal procedure, the courts decided that Nosey indeed was going to be a permanent resident of the elephant sanctuary, and she will be with us for the rest of her hopefully very long life. With Nosey, we see a lot of the issues that are common in performing elephants as they get older. Arthritis is always a concern. We think it's very likely that the elephants through, in Nosey's case, all that walking on concrete and parking lots. You can imagine the impact that weighing 9 or 10,000 pounds every time you take a step onto a hard surface like concrete. That's a lot of impact that's going to affect every joint in that elephant's body. And doing that day after day, year after year, over time, that causes a lot of wear and tear on the elephant's physical well-being, and that magnifies as they get older. So arthritis is a big issue that we see. Nosey also had a skin condition called hyperkeratosis that had to be treated. A lot of elephants we see with, I sort of jokingly call them the itises, a lot of inflammatory diseases that are chronic and get worse as the elephants age. And you see a lot of this with elephants from a circus background, but pododermatitis and osteomyelitis, issues with their feet, with their toes, their knees, their hips. Certainly, those are a lot of the really common afflictions that we see in elephants that come from a performing background.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, a similar situation to elephants who perform in festivals in India as well, since, it's around hundreds of, loud people, they're heavy decorations, they're going for rides. There's similar problems with their feet on the concrete floor.
Right.
And also just talking about the mental stress that they go through. Like some elephants, they have symptoms of PTSD. So I can imagine that. I think Nosey was a performer for 20 plus years. So I can imagine how that's affected her mentally as well is also important to consider. And you also mentioned the Knoxville Zoo. So, and you said you valued having, a constructive relationship with the zoo rather than, one based on hostility. And they've just announced they're sending 3 African elephants to the Tennessee Elephant Sanctuary. Can you just elaborate more about that?
Sure. And there's a lot that we are still planning right now. And again, we are working with our colleagues at the Knoxville Zoo to make this transition as smooth and as as successful as possible for Jana, Edie, and Tonka, the three elephants in question. So, here at the sanctuary, we are in the process of, expanding, making changes with some of our infrastructure to make way for these three new elephants. And the Knoxville Zoo, I don't know for a certain that this is what they're doing, but I can imagine they're probably going to be working with those elephants to help get them ready for transport and to make their final time at the zoo as enriching and as meaningful as it can be for those elephants and also for all the fans of those elephants at the zoo. So again, a timeline hasn't been set for the transfer of those three elephants, but we are getting ready for them, and I know that at the Knoxville Zoo, it's a bittersweet thing to say goodbye to the animals that they care for. But again, I think it's very commendable that they made the decision to do this, knowing and believing that it was what was best for their elephants.
No, that's so exciting. The translocation, I understand, is very complex process, so many factors to be considered. But we're all rooting for the elephants and hopefully it all goes successful. And yeah, I think just regarding the second aspect of the mission that you mentioned for the sanctuary, I also noticed you yourself personally contributed to the sanctuary's extensive educational program, both in person at the Discovery Center and through distance learning. Can you elaborate on these educational programs and their benefits and availability?
Absolutely. So the Elephant Sanctuary, we carry out our education mission in a few different ways. We have a museum here in Hohenwald, Tennessee, which is where we are located. And that museum, the Elephant Discovery Center, is open every Tuesday through Saturday from 9 until 4. We have a lot of school field trips that come here. We have lots of drop-in visitors, of course. We have interactive exhibits about the need for conservation, about the different species of elephants, and about their role as keystone species. And then certainly, of course, about what we do at the sanctuary and the elephants that live here. In addition to that, we have a dynamic distance learning program, a virtual learning program where using different web conferencing platforms like what we're doing here, we're able to connect with classes, schools, libraries, community centers, you name it, all over the world, and again, share standards-based programming about elephants and the need for conservation. As a matter of fact, before we spoke today, I was doing a program for a school in Nebraska, which is in a completely different part of the United States than where we're located. And we do, on average, about 500 of those virtual programs a year, reaching between 14 to 15,000 learners. Hopefully that number will go up from year to year. We also have a number of volunteers, outreach volunteers that do presentations on our behalf, that do outreach on our behalf. So our education program has also been growing quite a bit and will continue to grow because our board of directors, our management has always been very, very clear and forward thinking in that this education program, raising the public's awareness, creating a world that can better sustain humans and elephants alike together is how we will be able to truly create a better life for as many elephants as possible. So our education program is something that we're very, very excited about. And hopefully we'll have lots of news stories to tell very soon.
Yeah, I was looking through them. I really like how the courses, they're all based on case studies of the sanctuary's elephants. I think it makes it really interactive. And it has, a very large and diverse body of engagement. I was just looking at the numbers on the page. It said it's reached more than 55,000 individuals and has audiences in 48 states and 39 countries from, 6 continents. That's very amazing and impressive. And I think that's, you guys are doing amazing work on that end. And also, what are LCAMs? I noticed that on the website.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so we have live streaming cameras that we call ELECAMs, or elephant cameras, and they are located throughout the elephant habitat here at the sanctuary. So we have 13 cameras that that allow us to monitor the elephants in real time. And we also stream those cams to our website at elephants.com so that people from the comfort of their home, their computer, their tablet, their phone, their what have you, they're able to observe the elephants along with us. And we have a lot of people that do. We get lots of phone calls and emails every day, someone asking about something that they saw on the cams. And so I tell everybody that even though the elephants here are retired, and something I should be very clear about that I didn't say before, our elephant sanctuary is not open to the public. It is a true sanctuary. The elephants here are not on display. Their public lives are behind them to some degree. Even though people cannot physically come here to see the elephants, they are able to observe the elephants, right, from the comfort of their own home. So the elephants here, the 9 elephants that live with us, they are viewed, thousands of times a day by people all around the world, but they're done so in a way that doesn't change or infringe upon the elephant's sanctuary style of life here.
Yeah, and I think, these educational programs and live streams that you guys are offering are a great opportunity for just the general public to learn about this, because I know that zoos are often argued to be, educational. They've said that's the purpose, but I think there are many other ways that people can educate themselves. And especially for younger kids, it's really important to sort of, I think someone told me once, the most interesting behavior of elephants is what they do naturally in their habitat. So I think that's just seeing them naturally on the live streams is what's going to be the most inspiring and interesting for people. And also sort of building compassion, I think, at a young age is important. So it's great to see that your educational programs, they go for like very young ages, starting from pre-K all the way up till 6th grade. So that's really cool as well.
I think there's an inherent curiosity about elephants, and that's what we want to encourage. And we want to use that curiosity kind of as a starting point to hopefully create a passion and a desire to protect and to care for the wild kingdom. Certainly, using elephants as a great example.
Great. And what were some of your primary challenges, would you say, in just establishing the elephant sanctuary and just you've encountered while working on it?
Well, I think there are maybe, 2 challenges that is something that we deal with all the time. And I think a big challenge, and I sort of alluded to this before, is a lot of people hear, elephant sanctuary, and they assume that this is a place where, I can go and see the elephants or hang out with them. And so we spend a lot of time really helping our supporters and members of the general public take a moment to stop and think really about what that means, about why we're not open to the public, about the reasoning and the lives of the elephants that live here with us, and why we feel that this is the best circumstance for them. And what we've learned, or what I've learned, and again, I've been doing this for several years now, is that a lot of people, they contact us, so they'll call or they'll email or they'll stop by, and they just assume that they can buy a ticket and go see the elephants because that's just sort of what they're accustomed to. And even though those people are always disappointed initially, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, every one of those conversations ends with that person saying, I was disappointed, but I completely understand why you do what you do. I think it's wonderful that this place exists. I totally get it. And so we were able to take what might begin as a disappointment and turn it into a really powerful learning opportunity. And that's something that we do, if not every day, certainly very, very close to it. So a challenge that we've had is, how can we, learning how to be an education organization, how to teach people about conservation, how to teach a respect and care for these animals in a very sort of new and different way. And that's a challenge that we'll continue to have, and one that we are certainly glad to take on. And that leads to the second challenge. Our mission, and I know that the other guests that you've talked to have alluded to this as well, is a very daunting one. We're trying to protect elephants. All three elephant species are now recognized as endangered. There are elephants that do live in deplorable conditions all over the world and in human care, certainly here in the United States as well. And we want to give all those elephants the best life possible. And that's a really, really big task. And I think the more that we learn and the more that we grow, we really are realizing the enormity of that. But at the same time, all of our little successes day to day, every distance learning program, every conversation that we have, every story about, Sissy lying down for the first time, or, Billy still enjoying and moving around and getting the most out of sanctuary at age 60. All those little stories and instances really reinforce to us and to our supporters the value of what we do and the necessity of continuing to move forward. So, of course, we have challenges, everybody does, but we will continue to meet those challenges to the best of our ability and be prepared for whatever comes next.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And when you say giving elephants the best life possible, I just wanted to ask, what do you think is the future for captive elephants? And also part of that, what is your opinion on rewilding or training elephants to survive back in their wild habitats? Is that a feasible option?
Yeah, and I don't know that I can be an authority, or I can't speak as an expert on all rewilding initiatives. I do know that to the best of my knowledge, and I may be mistaken, but to the best of my knowledge, there's never been a scenario, again, here in North America where an elephant that's grown up in human care or in captivity has been successfully rewilded. Maybe that can happen in the future, but I think that's probably very unrealistic, just because elephants are incredibly intelligent animals and incredibly complex and complicated. And elephants that have grown up in man-made care, that have grown up in captive or non-wild settings, I think it's very, very difficult for them to go back to the wild, just because they've never really been equipped through observation, through learning, through being with a herd in a natural setting to be able to survive or to thrive in that setting. So I think rewilding is a great subject to think about. I think it's something that we should continue to think about and examine. But as of right now, I don't know how realistic an option that is. And again, just speaking for elephants that reside in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Right. So would you say that, like, just for current captive elephants is the solution just trying to get them to one of the nearest sanctuaries?
Yeah, I think so. I think looking ahead, here in the U.S., again, there's hundreds of captive elephants. And then again, those elephants, their living conditions range greatly from elephants that live at the elephant sanctuary, elephants that live at the other accredited elephant sanctuary, the Performing Animal Welfare Society in California, elephants that live in these very, very advanced, very, very, what's a good adjective? These incredibly advanced, these incredibly careful and thoughtful and successful zoos, where the elephants are part of, expansive habitats and social settings, and they're able to have a lot of those enrichment opportunities that have some aspects of that wildlife. To elephants that live in other facilities that aren't accredited or certified. And these should be like your roadside zoos or circuses, carnivals, that sort of stuff. So I think for all elephants in captivity, what we would like to see is more aspects that we associate with the elephant sanctuary, having the opportunity to form social bonds with other elephants, having the space to be able to explore and to engage in different types of environments, having individualized healthcare provided by professionals to deal with a lot of the health issues that we see with these elephants, spending time thinking about the overall well-being of each individual elephant, and then also about the elephant herd as a whole. I think what I'd like to see for the future of captive elephants is for that conversation to happen for all of those elephants. And for some of those elephants, that could very well mean retiring to an accredited sanctuary. And of course, we'd be happy to provide a home for as many as we can, but we would also be happy working with other elephant owners, other accredited zoos to be able to think about bringing what could be some aspects of the sanctuary to the elephant instead of the other way around.
Right. And, providing these natural habitats and opportunities to socially interact, let's say just a transition from a state of captivity to one at least like a sanctuary. What are some of the observable changes that, or people have noticed in their behavior? Is there a reversal of symptoms that elephants experience? For example, stereotypical behavior, like does that completely go away, or is it gradual? How does that work?
So, when the elephants come here, and again, everything is very unique to each individual elephant and his or her circumstances, I guess I should now say. So you mentioned stereotypical behavior. Obviously, that's something that you see with a lot of captive animals. The elephants are no different. We've had a number of elephants that have retired here to the sanctuary that do display stereotypical behavior. What we like to see, and what we have seen over time, is a decrease in that behavior, and we consider that a success. I think that because elephants are so intelligent and do have such a wide range of emotions, when they come to the sanctuary, it's not like there's just a switch that gets flipped from off to on and everything is okay again. They're these massively intelligent and complicated animals in many ways, and every experience that they've had really creates and forms who they are today and how they view the world around them. So what we try to do is to try to give the elephants every day a lot of good memories, maybe to go along with some of the bad ones that they may carry with them, and also give them a safe space to be able to exercise and to express themselves without fear of being punished or anything bad happening. So what we see is what we look for, what we take as a sign of success is when elephants do start to act more like wild elephants, when they start to forage more on their own, when they start to express curiosity towards other elephants, when they go for a swim in our ponds for the first time, or lie down, or in Nosie's case, start to use her tusks to root in the ground or to scrape bark off of trees or break branches. Any sort of demonstration of wild behavior is a really, really important and wonderful thing to see here from the elephants. And again, I think it would be too simple to say that we can undo a lot of the bad things that have happened to the elephants in the past. But what we can do is give them a safe space where they can have the best present possible, and hopefully a very long and content future.
Yeah, and I mean, like you mentioned, elephants and their needs, they're very complex. So it's definitely tricky to find solutions which are suited to captive elephants. And like you mentioned, rewilding, that's not been done before. I have heard that the Aspinall Foundation is rewilding a herd of 13 elephants from Kent back to Africa. So we'll see how that goes, I guess.
Yeah, it would be very interesting.
Yeah. And but there has been discussion about just phasing out elephants from zoos in general regarding the UK bill for elephant-free UK. So do you think regarding that bill, is there a similar possibility for some sort of law enforcement, in the US?
I'm not that familiar with the bill in the UK. And regarding here in the United States, I know that many states, many cities, many counties and jurisdictions have passed legislation that prevent the use of elephants in quote unquote performance. And so those would be your circus or your traveling elephants. And so I think for me, that's where I'd like to see the focus really go, is to try to provide a better life for the elephants that really need it the most. And those would be the elephants that are traveling from place to place. Again, Nosy being a great example. I think that is where we would like to see a lot of the effort placed here in the U.S. To encourage and applaud organizations that are doing, they're trying to meet those very high standards for elephant care, and also maybe try to influence a lot of those circuses with elephants, carnivals that still use elephant rides to maybe convince them to think about doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, agreed. And you guys, you guys do amazing work. It's great to hear a perspective from someone who's involved with elephants on the ground and also just in the distance from looking from an educational perspective. How can the public help and support your mission as a sanctuary?
Well, the first thing to remember is to go to our website, www.elephants.com. Lots of wonderful information there. You can go there to request one of our virtual learning programs. You can go there to watch our ELE-CAMs. You can certainly go there to donate. The Elephant Sanctuary is a 501c3 donor-funded organization. Everything that we do is made possible by caring donors located around the world who agree with what we do and want to help. So elephants.com can answer all those questions. We encourage everybody to one thing that we really talk a lot about is traveling responsibly, which is something that we've sort of talked about a lot here today. If you're going to go someplace where you may see elephants, to stop and ask yourself those questions. Does this elephant have what we know elephants need? Does it have access to space to explore? Does it have access to other elephants? Is it being asked to do something beyond the realm of what wild elephants might do? If the answer to those questions are no, then I would think really, really hard as to whether or not that would be a place that you would like to support. Another action step that we ask everyone to take is to think of ways that we can help our environment in big and little ways. We encourage everybody to think of doing things like saying no to single-use plastics, reusing and recycling what we can, making conscientious choices as a consumer to purchase from and to reward organizations that are creating their goods and services in a way that is more environmentally friendly and not having such a devastating effect on the habitat where elephants live. And again, all of this is outlined also at elephants.com. So lots to do to make a difference.
Yeah, great. And we'll link the website in the description as well. So our listeners should definitely check that out. And this was a very insightful conversation regarding how we can improve the welfare of elephants. And like you mentioned, better educate the public on how to just, better engage with the issue of captive elephants and identify sanctuaries. So, I really wanted to thank you for coming in today. It was really nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nikita. And it was a pleasure speaking with you. And thanks for what you do.